Good morning, everyone. This is James Ganes now, and we are Group 6. And today we're going to talk about this book named Media Information Literacy in Journalism, a handbook for journalism and journalism educators. So, this book tackles about the mistakes and flaws that our journalists doing in our society today that are affecting our government and our citizens. And us students, we can also use this book because we are also doing some activities that what our journalists are doing. So through MIL, we can fix everything and use the lessons so that we can avoid those mistakes. So we have 8 topics here, and let's start with the first one, reported by Ashley B. Binania.
Good day, everyone. This topic is about formulating media and information literacy competencies for journalism students and journalist educators. As we can see in the picture, the presentation highlights the importance of developing media and information literacy competencies among journalism students and educators. The image emphasizes that both students and teachers must be equipped with the knowledge and skills needed in today's digital world. Media and Information Literacy, or MIL, refers to the ability to access, analyze, evaluate, and create information responsibly. This means that journalists should know how to identify credible sources, verify information, and avoid spreading fake news or misinformation. The picture connects to the topic because it represents the role of journalism education in preparing future journalists to become ethical, responsible, and critical thinkers. It also shows that educators are responsible for teaching students proper media practices, fact-checking, and ethical communication. In today's modern society, information spreads rapidly through television, websites, and social media platforms. And because of this, journalism students and educators need strong MIL competencies to ensure that the information shared with the public is accurate and trustworthy. Overall, the image reminds us that media and information literacy is essential in journalism because it helps create informed citizens and responsible communicators. Thank you. That's all for this topic. Now for the second topic, Sumina will be proceeding.
So this is the second topic. What is boycotting and censorship? So let's start with censorship. So censorship is information or a news that is not published or controlled. So just like this photo, as you can see here, there's a guy getting controlled by someone. His hands are tied to the mic and he's behind his laptop, and in those laptop there are some messages and some social media platforms that are used. So they are blocked, and so you can see that these are messages. They're also blocked. So that is how censorship is happening. The journalist is being blocked by someone stronger than them and maybe having more power than them. And next, so next photo is, as you can see here, the journalist, the guy his eyes and mouth are covered, is getting censored, and in those hands there are messages written all over them. So those are the types of news or maybe informations that are not getting released because it may be inappropriate to be released in the public. So now let's talk about what is boycotting. So boycotting is when something or media company or institution is having a disagreement with some people. So just like this, we have two brands here from Champion, a Filipino product, and this UFC. So So these brands are getting boycotted because the workers are having a disagreement in their workplace. So the reason of this is their workplace is dangerous, so and their wages are so low. So they're having a disagreement on that. So that's why they are boycotting the company. So not just in some product companies, but this could happen in media. So next. So here, do you remember when in 2020, May 2020, ABS-CBN, the news media channel get shut down because of some disagreement in the politics. So their 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 franchise expired because they didn't pay it. So because of that, our former president Rodrigo Duterte shut them down, and the House of Representatives voted that not to renew their franchise. So they had, their media channel got shut down. So and their reason, ABS-CBN said that it was an attack on press freedom, but in the case of our former president Rodrigo Duterte, he said that he shut down the news media channel because of their rebellious attitude on the politics. So the news media channel did not pay their renewal for their franchise, so that's why they got shut down. So in that, there are two informations that you are comparing, so you need to use your critical autonomy. So here, critical autonomy. So in critical autonomy, you need to think independently, question information, and avoid getting manipulated. So based on the information ABS-CBN released, you should always think on yourselves, differentiate what is right and wrong, and always question the information that they're releasing on the public and avoid getting manipulated by them. So now let's talk about attacks on the real attacks on press freedom. So we have here our news broadcaster from Calamba, Misamis Occidental, Juan Humalon, aka DJ Johnny Walker. So he died on November 5, 2023. So his death was so brutal and gruesome and disturbing at the same time because he died during his FB live broadcast. So what happened is during his live there was a guy who came in the studio, and he said on what he said before he got in is he was a fan. So he got in the studio and shot him behind his back. So it was so disturbing because many people saw his death live on FB and on radio live broadcast. And next is the most brutal attack on press freedom and censorship, the Maguindanao Massacre or the Banatuan Massacre. So this happened on November 23, 2009. So this includes 53 people in the car or the van. So and that includes 32 journalists. So the scenario is there was a governor who wants to file his candidacy for governor, and I mean he was going to file his candidacy for governor, and randomly during the travel there was some people who randomly attacked them or massacred them, and that caused 52 deaths. And in those deaths there are 2 journalists, so that includes censorship in it because the purpose on those massacre or killings is to silence their side. So that's why it's one of the most disturbing and gruesome cases of censorship. And that's all for topic 2.2. And Irene.
So moving on to the next subtopic, monitoring and moderating media message to reduce potential negative impact on citizens. So you already heard about censorship from the previous speaker. It's suppressing information from the public. And while it can hinder free expression and the citizens' critical autonomy, the original purpose of censorship is to protect them from harmful messages. Now, when it comes to bad journalism with poor quality and accuracy, like having misinformation or bias, it can lead to harmful media message and then get censored. That's why, instead of censorship, UNESCO proposes that professional and ethical journalism is more effective and sustainable. It allows them to be able to report the truth while minimizing the harm. The logic seems simple, right? Good quality journalism is much less likely to get censored. But that's not all. In order to achieve that, journalists, both practicing and in training, should have civic consciousness. They should always have in mind the responsibility their work comes with, the effect it can have, and make it good. One way to do this is by giving them training to be aware of what kind of response certain messages can have on people, so that they can connect with them and understand their perspective. Aside from civic consciousness, another way to monitor and moderate the media message is through editorial policies. These are guidelines set by the media organizations on how content for news should be handled, like how it's gathered and presented, and these have been proven to be effective in controlling what reaches the public. The issue with this is the speed. Because journalists have to gather, edit, and publish, the quality can get sacrificed, especially in the current digital age where information can be made accessible anywhere and anytime. Deadlines are often made shorter to keep up. Therefore, ensuring that journalists have been trained to properly monitor and moderate media messages on people makes sure that they are ethically protecting and also maintaining a truthful communication with them. So now moving on to the next subtopic.
Hello, good day everyone. For my part, subtopic 2.4, for this part I will be discussing building bridges between media professional and libraries through MIL. So today, as we know, we are living in an information society, and because of the technology and social media, information spreads very fast. People, especially us young people, we are constantly exposed to news, to opinions, and online content. But not all information we see is accurate or reliable. This is where media professionals and libraries become very important. Before, libraries were known, mainly as places where books are stored. But now, libraries are more than that. They are access points to digital information. And librarians are not just bookkeepers. They act as guides who help people find, organize, and evaluate information. And at the same time, media professionals like journalists gather, verify, and publish information for the public, even if they have different roles. Both journalists and librarians share a common goal. It's to provide reliable and trustworthy information. So for this slide, we can see here that this meme, it represents the common struggle of social media users. When people see shocking or emotional news, people feel pressured to share it right away. However, responsible media consumption requires checking if the information is true first. This relates to media and information literacy because both journalists and librarians encourage verification before sharing. And the meme, it shows that the choice between being responsible and being impulsive is something many people face daily online. And for the next slide, we have And for this slide, we have here the meme where, excuse me, meme wherein checking ranks, it humorously shows levels of thinking. And at the lowest level, we can see here that the people bowing down, they only read one post. Then as the brain expand, the guys in the left and right, they read the full article and check read verified journalism. And for the higher rank, they ask their brain plus read verified journalism. So as we can see here that this connects to building between media and professionals and libraries, because both they work together to promote deeper understanding and responsible information consumption. For the next slide, we have the famous Drake meme. So for the first photo, we have Drake rejecting unverified viral post, and for the next one, we have Drake approving the fact check article. So it clearly shows, or the meme clearly shows that the difference between careless and responsible behavior online. Mainly viral posts gain attention because they are dramatic or emotional, but that doesn't mean they are accurate. The approving side, it represents responsible journalism and verified information. And this connects to my topic because media professionals ensure accuracy, while libraries help users identify trustworthy sources. And together, they encourage responsible sharing and discourage the spread of misinformation. And for the next and last slide, we have the Abraham Lincoln meme, wherein, as you can see in the photo, we have "Don't believe everything you see on the internet" by Abraham Lincoln. And I find this meme really funny because, Abraham Lincoln lived before the internet even existed. So the quote is, it's obviously fake. But many people still share fake quotes like this online without checking if they are real. And this connects to our topic because it shows why young people need to be taught how to properly consume news and information online. And for our next reporter, subtopic 2.5, we have Henry Bua.
Good day, everyone. Let's proceed to working with non-conventional information sources. Journalism is based on documented facts. This means journalists must gather information that is true, reliable, and supported by evidence before sharing it with the public. The main task of journalists has four important steps. First is collecting information. Journalists gather detail from different sources such as interviews, social media posts, personal experiences. The second one is verifying information. After collecting the information, journalists must check if it is true or not. They compare it with other sources, ask experts, or look for proof to avoid spreading false information. The third one is analyzing the information. Journalists study the information carefully. They try to understand the meaning, the context, and why the information is important to the public. The last one is presenting accurate information to the public. Journalists write or report the story in a clear and fair way so people can understand what really happened. There's also key stages and journalistic process. The first one is choosing the topic. Journalists first decide what issue or event to report about. The topic shall be important and interesting to the public. The second one is collecting information. Journalists gather facts from different sources. This can include interviews, observations, documents, and internet sources. The last one is rethinking and verifying the information. After collecting the information, journalists must analyze and double check the facts. They review the data, confirm the codes, and compare information from different sources to make sure if it is correct. Next slide. Internet enables fast information access. Journalists can quickly find news and data online. Online sources increase misinformation risk. The internet can also spread false or misleading information, so journalists must verify the facts. Blogs and social media offer insights. Platforms like Facebook and YouTube help journalists see public opinions, trends, and posts. Databases and AI tools assess reporting. Journalists use databases and AI tools to analyze data and support investigation. Non-conventional sources are powerful but yet risky. They provide useful information but may not always be reliable. So to continue, I will now pass the discussion to my James Sumino.
So now let's talk about the sixth topic, gender perspective in media information literacy. So next. So here, it's a gender perspective exam in media representation. So I have photos here to show you some examples. So first is this. So I'm gonna give you 5 seconds to examine this photo and keep your answers in your mind. So now keep your answers in your head, and next is this. Examine it for 5 seconds. So last, examine this. So hope you got your answers. So the first is a shampoo brand getting modeled by some famous actress, some beautiful actress from Philippines. And as you can see, there are Cashin Bernardo, and second is a dishwashing soap getting modeled by women, and lastly a compilation of action movies and getting starred by men. So in this report, I'm gonna answer all of those the answers that you got in your analysis on those photos. So next. So now, media shapes audience perceptions of gender, or how media shapes interprets gender. So first is romantic films, women as emotional. So as you can see here, Liza Soberano, a famous actress here in Philippines, shown that she is crying or being emotional. So in that romantic film, women are known as the one who cries in their problems, or who are sensitive enough to be hurt by words, by their love interest or someone. So next, action movies, men as strong heroes. So as I was saying before, about the compilation of action movies, so those are all men and getting starred by men as well, because they are strong and smart. smarter than women based on the perception of our society. So I'm not saying that women are dumb or not strong, but that was the perceptions of our society. So based on that, people are likely to watch men on action movies, so that's why they prefer men. Next. Third is advertising women as soap makers. So as shown before about the photo about the soap, the dishwashing soap modeled by women. So they're known as homemakers or caregivers of, or the one who take care of our homes or our moms to be exact. They're known for that and more responsible than men based on the perceptions of our society. So next is social media, body image standards. So in here we got our 2018 Miss Universe, Catriona Gray. Based on this, she is known for her beauty or her body because that's why she won the Miss Universe in 2018. So why is that? So she's known for why with the body image standard. So many people are inspired by her or want to get her beauty or body, so they're copying her lifestyle, the way she moves, or the way he lives her life. So people are getting inspired by it, so that's why they want to copy her. But some as well are getting depressed because there are some people who are not in the state of their body or not in their healthiest state. So that's why they're getting depressed. So they think that their cells are the lowest in the society, so they're getting depressed. But why is that? Back. So here another one, we got Marlon, our Twitch streamer. So as well, same as Catriona Gray, some are inspired and some are getting depressed because some people cannot get that kind of face or a face card or body, so that's why they're getting depressed. So they think that no one will like them or choose them because of that. And next perspective, news media focus on appearance on female leaders. So here in Philippines, we don't have that kind of issue, but on another country like US, they are more likely to choose men as leaders because they think women are not as smart as men and not as as strong as men, so they prefer men to lead the country. But that's the kind of thinking we should avoid because women are also greater than you think it is, because women can be more smarter than men or stronger, so they have the capabilities that sometimes men don't have. So that's why you should stop that thinking. And next, our last perspective, the LGBTQ representation in TV shows. So as you can see here, this is a Vice Ganda movie entitled Girl Boy Bakla Tomboy. So in the LGBT community, they are known for being funny or the comedians in some groups. So that is a perspective people are carrying into our society. So Vice Ganda is known for being funny and the comedian that he is. So that's why people are always using that kind of perspective because they are LGBT community are known for it. So, but just like women's, the LGBT community can be greater than that. So that's all for the perspective. And now this photo. The unequal representations remains common. So as you can see here, this is a scale, and on that scale, men weighs higher than women, and that symbolizes that men are more preferably to get chosen by our society because the perspective of our people. And next is this. women appear less in news coverage. So these are some news coverage, so 4 types of news coverage, and most of them men dominates. So the orange one represents men and the yellow one represents women. Next. Here, sports media favors male visibility. So in here also as well, men dominates. Why? So I'm gonna ask you this question: if you see women playing basketball, it may look so weird and so odd to see. So that's why people prefers to watch men. But the true reason is the marketing. So in sports media, people are some news media companies choose men to model their products or maybe their newspapers because men are most likely to be chosen in sales or to be bought in some shops. So that's why they're more chosen and their exposure. So lastly, the role of MIL in gender equality. How MIL can fix gender equality. First is analyze gender portrayals. So in analyzing gender portrayals, people can see which and how genders can act on some different concepts in our society. And next is challenge stereotypes and bias. So should always challenge stereotypes so that we can avoid these kinds of issues in our society. And lastly, promote inclusivity and fair media. So in here that says that women can also play action movies. So Tomb Raider played by a woman star, and also here. Lastly, Will Smith in an emotional movie that says that men can also be as emotional as women, and men cannot just be the action heroes, but also be a heartfelt character who also brought out their emotion. And that's all for my topic. And Irene.
Okay, so for this subtopic, it is collecting information in the era of open data. Let's start with defining the term open data. What is it exactly? It has quite a few characteristics. First, it is freely accessible. This is the open part of the name. You can use an online search engine, such as Google, to access it anytime, anywhere, and with no cost. Second, the information is complete and relevant. This means the information is up to date and has no missing parts. Third, open data can be processed by a computer. And lastly, it is exploitable, editable, and shareable by anyone for any purpose. So, whoever you are and for whatever purpose, you're free to use and share it as you like. The only requirement being to credit the source, and the source must be given. And the data cannot be distorted. But what exactly can you find in open data? Open data includes information on government records like court records, birth records, and budgets. There is also economic open data. It can be data about poverty or employment rates, and also data about local entities. For example, municipalities, barangays, and local government units. So, from how easily usable open data is, but also in what kinds of information available, it provides advantages to journalism. It enhances accuracy by using raw, verified data. It allows for identifying trends through large datasets, and it can even be used to hold accountability by using the publicly available data, like budgets, to find corruption. Additionally, the data being in machine-readable format makes it easier to process. It's come to the point where using open data is a necessity. However, there are certain skills needed to be able to use open data properly and effectively. This includes knowledge of English, because it's a common language for open data. Understanding how online search engines work, because open data is primarily found online. Skills of working with spreadsheets, since the data is often in machine-readable format. Spreadsheets are an easy way to organize and present it. knowledge in mathematics and statistics, because open data consists of numbers. It's to be able to interpret the data accurately and identify the patterns and relationships. And last but not least, legal literacy, to ensure the ethical use of the data. So now it's quiz time, but don't worry, it will be easy. The question is, in the year 2023, which country visited the Philippines the most? A. South Korea, B. the USA, or C. Japan? You have 3 seconds to answer. 3, 2, 1. Time's up.
A.
The answer is A. South Korea. Now, as you can see, this is the picture of the raw open data that I got the information from. It shows that South Korea is ranked number 1 with 26.33% of the visits from January to October 2023. Now, where exactly did I get that data set to make the quiz? I'm going to reveal it now. I started by using the Google search engine, typing Open Data Philippines into the search bar. From there, I visited the official website for open data about the Philippines, data.gov.ph. On that website, several data sets are presented, and you can even search for specific ones. For example, let's say I'm a journalist, and I want to write an article about tourism in the Philippines. I will search for the relevant data sets and simply download the files. Here, you can see a bigger version of the image of the open data that I showed earlier. It shows more countries and exact numbers. And that's all for this subtopic. Moving on to the next speaker.
Now for the last subtopic, which is visualization of information, the new features of journalism. Good day, everyone. So this is the last topic. As shown in the picture, journalism today is no longer limited to plain text or written articles. Modern journalism now uses visual elements such as charts, graphs, infographics, videos, animation, and images to present information more effectively. The picture connects to the topic because it highlights how visualization has become one of the newest and most important features of journalism. Through visual presentation, audiences can understand complex information more easily and quickly. For example, journalism uses graphs to explain statistics, maps to show location of events, and infographics to summarize important details. These visual tools make news more engaging, attractive, and easier to remember. In today's digital world, many people get information from social media and online platforms. And because of this, visual storytelling helps journalists communicate with audiences in a clearer and more interactive way. However, journalism must still use visuals responsibly. Images, charts, and videos should always be accurate and not misleading because visual misinformation can easily influence the public's opinion. Overall, the picture reminds us that visualization is an important innovation in journalism because it improves communication, understanding, and audience engagement while still promoting truthful and ethical reporting. Now for the conclusion, Elijah.
So, to conclude all the topics we discussed, show that media and information literacy is very important in today's digital world. Journalists must be ethical and responsible in reporting. Educators must teach critical thinking. Libraries must guide users in evaluating information. And citizens must learn to question and verify what they see online. So overall, MIL is not just about accessing information. It is about understanding, analyzing, and using information responsibly. If media professionals, educators, librarians, and citizens work together, we can fight misinformation, protect democracy, and build a more informed society. So that is all for our video, for our topic, and I hope you learned something. Thank you.